What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a little while since I uploaded a video, but we're back again. Here is going to be the install of the Tomei UEL headers for the FA20 DIT WRX. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to undo all the clips holding on the front under engine cover. There's quite a few of them in the middle and on the sides in the wheel well area, and along with two 12mm bolts towards the front. And now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to want to take off the 4 bolts holding on the front skid plate. And so now you're going to want to disconnect the accordion turbo inlet looking hose that you see there, along with the 3 hoses right by the PCV return hose that you see right there. It's the big squishy one with the white little plug on it. You're going to want to disconnect the boost control solenoid plug and bypass valve outlet clamp. So now after that, you're going to want to remove the two 10mm bolts holding on the little plastic turbo inlet and remove that. And as you might have guessed, now you need to remove the 2 bolts holding on the charge pipe to the turbo outlet. The turbo charge pipe can stay there in place. Just make sure you remove the 2 bolts so the turbo can drop down. So I just want to show you guys real quick. Here Tomei includes a whole slew of gaskets that you may use for your install. Now I didn't end up needing this big round one right here that connects directly to the exhaust housing of the turbocharger, because I did leave the first catalytic converter / J section connected. The only thing I did was change out that gasket that you're looking at right here where I'm sizing that up. That'll save you quite a bit of work if you're using the stock catback. And so I came here to the rear of the transmission where the exhaust bolts up to at that bracket. Just taking out those 2 bolts so that it allows me to slide the exhaust back, and I'm able to get the section of the J-pipe off of those 2 studs that you saw earlier. So here I'm just removing the heat shield bolts for the bottom half. This step isn't totally necessary at this point in time, but feel free to do that whenever you want. Alright, so here comes the really fun part, is removing all the hoses. What I did to mitigate some of the fluid loss is I stuffed in some silicone caps that I had laying around. Those are high temperature silicone caps, mostly meant for when you're powder coating, but in this application I stuffed them in there and they sealed great. Didn't have much coolant loss at all. I didn't even need to top it off or top off the oil level. Now there are 6 different lines going in and out of that turbocharger. The ones towards the inlet of the turbo, there's going to be 3 of them. Plus 1 more near the wastegate, which is a 17mm hex. That is the turbo feed line. It's a hard line. Uses a flare type fitting. So get an open end 17mm to undo that one. Towards the top of the turbo you have I believe a breather and a coolant line. There's 1 hose up there that has a sort of proprietary sort of clamp, and to me they're single use because I don't have the special clamp to be able to reuse those, so I just used a regular hose clamp when I assembled everything back together. But yeah, here's a really fun part. So glad I have these plugs. And so here I'm just using a flat tip screwdriver to sort of pry up on that proprietary clamp I was talking about earlier. to get it loose and undone. Then you can bend it, take it off the line, and just throw it away. Just use a regular hose clamp in place of that. I almost forgot to mention there are a couple of brackets bolted towards the front of the block where the water pump sits at. I took off, you could take off that one 14mm bolt, it's kind of hard to get to, or the two 12mm bolts, and then there should be another one by the wideband sensor. There's a little bracket up there right by its connector clip. So now what I'm doing here is I'm breaking all 6 nuts loose by hand that hold the exhaust manifold to the heads. And I make sure to remove all of them except one for each side, so that it doesn't come crashing down on me and I'm not there ready to support it. And here's where I realized there's one more bracket hanging onto the turbo. It's another 14mm hiding right there. I loosen it and use the impact to extract it. There we go.
She is loose.
Only thing hanging on are those 2 nuts that I left earlier. And so I realized that the weight of the turbocharger, the manifold, and that first catalytic converter, which is part of the J-pipe, is quite heavy, and I may need some assistance lowering it down safely. So what I ended up doing is I ended up sliding the jack under there, putting a little support under it, meanwhile while I take off those 2 remaining nuts. And so here goes nut number 1. And nut number 2. And now you can slowly lower the turbocharger assembly, and it's out. And so now here what I'm doing, just removing the 4 bolts that hold the manifold onto the turbocharger. Now you see that bracket there. Tomei includes a slimmer stainless version that's compatible with theirs, so you won't be needing that one going back anymore, but just pay attention to the orientation of when you put the new one back on. And now here's a Tomei UEL header for the FA20 WRX and all of its glory. As you can see, I already went through the hassle of having to wrap each of the runners. It can be a real pain in the butt. I'm not going to go through the whole process of how you do it. I suggest just looking at a YouTube tutorial that's already out. It is time consuming. It took me maybe about 2.5 hours to get it done, but nonetheless, I do believe it is necessary, as the new header doesn't have shielding the way the OEM one does, and you don't want to be melting hoses or the intake, for example, which is very close by. Strongly recommend anti-seize here. Anywhere where there's high temperatures and you're dealing with metals that can corrode, it's always a good idea to put anti-seize on. Exhausts are a notorious example. Also, don't forget to put the bracket on the new stainless one that Tomei provides. I just so happen to forget, even though I just picked it up a second ago. So yeah. And here I finally put that bracket on and in the correct orientation. And now here, don't forget to put the hot side heat shield on with those 3 little 10mm bolts. Alright, so here I am laying on my back with the whole assembly sitting on my stomach. Right now I'm just making sure that gasket's gonna stay up there in place while I lift it up, and I have my nuts ready to go. Okay. So we get my knee in. Get one on. Gosh. That last one, I'm gonna have to do by hand with a wrench. Also, don't forget to reinstall that ground strap on the driver's side. I don't want to bore you guys too much with the whole reassembly process, but it's just the opposite of the removal process. Another note is don't forget to tighten down the slide adjusters for that slip fit on the passenger side of the exhaust manifold / header. You don't want to leave those loose, so just cinch them down. It's an 8mm wrench and a Allen. Alright, header's all installed, everything's hooked back up. Minus the exhaust. One here with the open J-pipe sounds like. See what happens. Lights or codes. I think we're good.